All right, speaker number one, Richard Snyder, the Count. The Count, Richard Snyder.
I'm sure you are all familiar with my younger half-brother. He was made famous for his biography by Bram Stoker and his many movies, and of course, his ridiculous speaking style. Good evening. I am Count Dracula. I have come to suck your blood. I always thought he was a little batty, if you know what I mean. Our father, may he rest in peace, was notorious for being a bad count. Some people said he was a no account count. But he was a great ladies' man. He was known all around Europe. And he couldn't count the number of children on two hands. I was born in France in the early 1800s, and my younger half-brother was born in Transylvania about 20 years later. Mr. Ghostmaster, fellow Ghostmasters, I'm 200 years old now. I'm old, and I'm feeble, and I'm sore. My whole body aches, and my joints ache. Yes, even monsters get old. Why, look at how Frankenstein would walk. That's me sometimes in the morning. It's hard to get up. So I need to lubricate my joints and my bones all over. My younger half-batty brother uses fresh blood, but I prefer oil to lubricate my body. Now, I don't go to the store anymore, but what I do, a couple times a month, I go down from my mansion in the mountains to the village below, to an unsuspecting house. Maybe your house. I'm looking for oil. My oil of preference is Crisco oil. I like the way it goes down and almost immediate relief. 2 tablespoons a day is more than enough to make me feel good. I can already start to feel the rejuvenation in my bones. Now, I know you all put out cookies and milk for Santa. Why not put out a bottle of Crisco oil, or at least a cup of Crisco oil for me? Because if you don't, I will let my younger half-fatty brother know. And you don't want to visit from him in the middle of the night. His bite is a lot worse than my bark, if you get my drift. So, fellow Ghostmasters, remember, put out a cup or even a bottle of Crisco oil for yours truly. Please read my biography, The Count of Monte Crisco. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the dance floor at the Monster Mash on Saturday. You all know the song? So let's dance. See how well the oil works? Immediately. Don't forget to put it out. I may be calling on you soon. My name is Count Monte Crisco, and I approve of this message. Mr. Ghostmaster.
Little M was hecka mad. She had just got home from school after a whole day of miserable teasing from none other than her nemesis, little L and little N. Little L said things to her like, "You're just a moody, mixed up mess." And little N, not to be outdone, said, "Yeah, and you're miserable, and you're, let me get my flashcard. I got it right here. You're mediocre and melodramatic." Well, those were words that just were not nice at all. And little Em went home and she thought, what is she going to do to get back at them? She had to figure out something to show them how mad she was, how terrible they were. And she thought through dinner. And then she went to bed and she couldn't sleep because she thought and thought and thought, what can I say to her? And then, what can I say to them? And then she came up with it. The next day, she went to school. Of course, the teacher, Miss Fitzpatrick, lined them all up and had them call off their names in roll call. Of course, there was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, M, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, X, Y, Z. There was no little L and little N. Now, as she was dozing off to sleep, she thought how nice it would be if little N and little L had never been born. And sure enough, her dream came true. But unfortunately, that meant she couldn't tell them off because she was ready at recess to march up to little L and say, "You're just a loser, lousy, nobody." And then to march up to little N and say, "You're just a nincompoop, and you're a," I got my flashcard too, "you're nefarious." I don't know what it means, but that's what you are. But they weren't there. And she looked forward to her special lunch time, but without an L, there was no lunch. And of course, in the playground was no light laughter that she was used to hearing. In fact, all the kids were being really mean to each other. And then she heard it. Beep, 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 beep. It was her alarm clock going off. She woke up. It wasn't real. She experienced an nightmare. And she went to school. And sure enough, as Miss Fitzpatrick always did, she lined them up in order and they said off their names, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, you know the rest. They were back. But she decided maybe it wasn't such a great idea to tell them what she really felt, and maybe she should use a different tact. So she looked at little L and said, "I love your beautiful smile. It always makes me happy." And then she looked at little N and said, "Your green eyes fill me with joy." And that did it. Just a few kind words suddenly changed their attitude. And from that point on, you could not separate L, M, N. They did everything together. They grew up and ended up doing marvelous things. And of course, you know, Miss Fitzpatrick, she said what they would all end up doing, and they did. Little L ended up becoming a line dance teacher, started franchises all over the nation. Little N, she started some special membership clubs. I wouldn't know about them except for Connie and Tom told me about the one just down the road called Olive Dale. Oh, you didn't know that's the nudist colony. She was always a little naughty. And that's what happened with those three friends. Little M wanted me to remind you that you have the opportunity to use words that could be mean or malevolent, or you can use words that are magnificent. Oh, what did she end up doing? She ended up starting an empire that made her a multimillionaire. You all know her empire because you all love the special sweet treats that she came up with. We all know and love M&Ms. Come.
Piano player. Piano player. David Flores is for welcoming applause.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. There was a day I was sitting at my local tavern with my cold beer, just enjoying myself and relaxing. Next to me sits a man, orders his drink, and he was so curious because I had my box on the top there. He couldn't help but ask, "What's in the box?" So I, well, I'll show you. So he looks inside. He goes, "Is that real?" Yeah, that's a miniature piano. He goes, "Oh, is that little guy real?" Yeah, he's real too. And he says to me, "Where did you get that?" So I said to him, "Well, last week when I was walking over here to have a beer, I cut through the park. As I went through the park, I came across a shiny bottle. Out of curiosity, I picked it up, rubbed it up, and whoop, of course, a genie pops out. So I never believed in genies until that day. And it was my lucky day. I got one wish and one wish only," he says. Oh, okay. So out of curiosity, he goes, "Well, what'd you do with the bottle?" I said, "I just left it back in the park." He gets off his stool and dashes out the door, runs out there. So I sat down and just drank my drink. About 20 minutes later, comes walking back in slowly, kind of disappointed look on his face, sits down. And I say to him, "Well, what happened? Did you find the bottle?" Because, "Yeah, I found it. It's just like you said. I rubbed it. Genie pops out, says the same thing he told you. I get one wish and one wish only, and I can't take it back." Oh, okay. So how did it go? What happened? Well, first of all, I want to tell you something. I think that genie of yours has a hearing problem. So really? Well, what happened? Well, I said to him, "I want $1 million." Wow, that's pretty good. Then what happened? Well, out of the air starts falling $1 million ducks. I don't think he heard what I said. I said, "Oh, well, that makes sense." Be honest with you, I was kind of wondering about myself because I wasn't sure if he really understood what I wanted. Because, yeah, I do think he does have a hearing problem, which explains a lot of things as far as what's going on. You see, to be honest with you, I really didn't wish for a 10-inch pianist, Mr. Toastmaster.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, last week, I lost my favorite uncle. He suffered a heart attack. His name was Augie, short for Augustino. You probably don't know him, though you might recognize his voice, the voice of the Geico Gecko on those insurance commercials. I once spoke to him about where he got that Cockney accent. You see, he spent his youth in Brooklyn, but he hated that accent. Fortunately, the family moved to England, and he lived there for over a decade, where he learned that Cockney accent. After the war, he moved to Hollywood, started acting, started doing commercials and small parts. Never enough to earn a reliable income, but the Geico contract really set him up for life. My uncle had some really odd habits and one dark secret. He had been flying almost since the dawn of commercial aviation. He was a pilot in World War II, yet he had this enormous collection of barf bags, airline barf bags. It was because of all the traveling he did. He even had an incredibly rare Pan Am barf bag, a collector's item. Now, his dark secret, now don't tell anyone. You see, he was terrified of small lizards. Even the Geico gecko, he kept this a secret from fans. He actually suffered from a phobia over small lizards. Now, many people confuse a phobia with paranoia. These are actually two very different things. If he saw a lizard, he'd go into a panic attack. So he stopped watching regular TV. Instead, he got a VHS, then later a DVD player, and eventually a Blu-ray player, just to avoid watching regular TV. But eventually his doctor warned him. His heart couldn't take it anymore. He had to completely avoid seeing small lizards. So he moved to a high rise. And the Geico people, they bought him a special TV. It was an enormous organic LED TV equipped with AI that could recognize small lizards and blur the image. It came with a switch so you can turn this feature on and off. Because sometimes the feature was too sensitive, but finally Augie could watch regular TV. One day, the family came over and there were lots of children and they were watching, of course, watching children's program. But at the end, everyone left. They forgot to turn the feature back on again. And in the morning, when Augie woke up, he saw his reptilian alter ego. Now his housekeeper was there, and she saw him run in circles like a madman. And finally, he ran toward the balcony. He fell over the railing and fell from the 6th floor, landing in the pool. The coroner later reported he died of a heart attack. Now, the family had a big discussion on how they were going to bury him. You see, he was a veteran, but not of this country, so he couldn't have the American flag draped over his coffin. In the end, they decided they would bury him in a glass coffin. So what they did was they put his bark bags in that glass coffin, and it had a little door that you can drop little tiny plastic geckos in his coffin instead of flowers. And everyone did that. And then they lowered the coffin in the ground. But overnight, grave robbers struck. They broke into his coffin, all just to steal those barf bags. The next day, the news headlines read, "Grave robbers break into coffin. Remains to be seen." Mr. Toastmaster.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. In the aftermath of COVID lockdown 4 years ago, Socksville, a vibrant town where Sox engaged in lively discussions and debates, experienced a paradigm shift in Sock communication. This transformative event occurred in July of 2019, marking the establishment of Sock Toastmasters District. Here, socks of various sizes, colors, and patterns emerged to hone their skills in the art of communication. This year, the district proudly distinguished 8 clubs, with 3 of the clubs achieving the esteemed President's Distinguished status. Here are the names of these 3 clubs. The first club, named Sock and Awe Speakers, was led by the charismatic sock named Sir Blabalot. He had a penchant for puns and a talent for turning even the most mundane sock topics into uproarious tales. This club's meetings were filled with laughter as socks practiced impromptu speaking exercises like whether Santa preferred striped or polka dotted socks. And the 12 socks of Christmas. And Sock It To Me. The second club was the totally talkative Toasters. Fluffy Toe is the president of this club, and they're known for their heated debates on the proper ways to fold socks and whether stripes or polka dots were more fashionable. The club president, Miss Mismatch Maven, always wore mismatched socks as a symbol of her commitment to diversity in sock fashion. Now, the third club is the Socrates of Eloquence. This club is for the more philosophical socks, led by Professor Pondersock. This club dives into profound discussions about the meaning of life, the existence of mythical lost sock dimension, and the eternal question of whether socks prefer to be rolled or folded. Now, every year in December, the sock Toastmaster clubs come together for the grand event known as the Sock Symposium of Wit and Wisdom. Socks from all walks of life showcase their communication skills in a dazzling extravaganza. Some of the awards given for prior 3 years winners were the most charismatic cuff and the jingliest stitch story, as well as the coveted golden toe mic for the merriest speaker of the year. Now this year, a single sock, renowned for his oratory brilliance, emerges as the undeniable star of 2023's Sockposium. This exceptional sock, affectionately known as Jingle Toes, had enchanted audiences with a speech that embodied the true spirit of Christmas. Jingle Toes was adorned in festive stripes and bells that tinkled with every step he took. As he took center stage at the grand Sockposium, the audience, a sea of twinkling eyes and rolled down cuffs, hushed in anticipation of the magical oration that awaited. With a jolly twinkle of his eye, Jingle Toes began heartwarming tale of the lonely sock named Stitch. He was the only sock without a partner in that drawer, making him the most eligible bachelor in that drawer. Stitch dreams of finding his other half. And then, when he was out delivering holiday present for the suffering kids out there without money to buy gifts, he met Dot, a polka dotted sock with a sense of humor that could knock your socks off. And they hit it off like two socks in a dryer, static and all. As the final words echoed in the room like a chorus of jingling bells, the applause was thunderous. Jingle Toes, with a humble bow, graciously accepted the coveted, spectacular speech of 2023 award, Mr. Toastmaster.
Good evening, District 12 Speakers Bureau, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Ever since I won a trophy at the 1980 Founders District Speech Contest in Tall Tales, I've been asked several times to do a beginner's workshop on Tall Tales. This time, I decided to create a video so that you can see it. It's called Captain Earl's Surprise. Tall Tales in 1980 was a 3-minute, well-crafted, exaggerated tale. The trick was to drop little clues during the story that would lead to a surprise twist at the ending. The time was 3 minutes. If you went 1 second over, you were disqualified. This speech originated in Burnt Toast Club 815 in Riverside. It won the area, it won the division, and went on to district competition in Pasadena. Start the timing as I recite the tall tale, Captain Earl's Surprise. The boardroom of the San Francisco Yacht Racing Club was alive with anticipation. Seated around the large oak table were 12 of the finest sailboat racing sailors on the West Coast. They had their forefathers in them had competed in the all-male yacht race around the San Francisco Bay for more than 100 years. These were fiercely competitive men with hearts as cold as the north wind. Each one had an objective in mind to win this year's annual sailing regatta. The president banged the meeting to order with his gavel. I have some bad news for all of us. For the first time ever, a group of women from Southern California have gotten a boat, filled out all the paperwork, paid the entrance fees, and are officially entered into this year's race. Pandemonium immediately broke out. There were tables tipped over and chairs thrown across the room, beer cans tossed in fiery anger. Sausalito Slim yelled, "We can't have females on the ships. Pretty soon they'll be hanging bras and other unmentionables from the yard arms." Berkeley Ben shouted, "And we'll have to put up with loud Barry Manilow music from their boom boxes." The uproar raged for half an hour before Captain Earl Grappolo stood up, scratched his tattoo, took another puff on his pipe, and announced, hold it, I have a plan." A week later, when the regatta started, seagulls circled aimlessly in the clear blue skies above the bay. The men had their decks all polished and their sails trimmed to perfection. Off to one side, the ladies had their decks all polished and their sails trimmed to perfection. They were ready to go, but little did they know that Captain Earl Grappolo had swum under their vessel with a portable Black & Decker power drill and was silently drilling lots of holes in the hull of the female's ship. Water started spurting up everywhere, and the ladies panicked, running fore and aft and to and fro and port and starboard and screaming at the top of their lungs, they jumped overboard into the salty water of the bay. Captain Earl swam silently back to his ship and was hoisted aboard by his jubilant teammates, who congratulated him for having created the League of Women Boaters. Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay. And our second place winner in Tall Tales. It's going to be a habit. Richard, come on down.
About the other ones, I was voted most likely to be half by my high school classmates. I never thought it would happen in the middle of a speech.
Well, we all remember those experiences. And first place. Ed, come on down. Really appreciate it. Good process. Thank you very much. Now,
Yeah.